Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Mova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, you can send it in anytime to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. And if you're a lucky goose, you could get it answered on Mailbag or goose. Movie Talk. And sitting with me to answer those questions right now is the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, Mr. John Campea. John, how are you today?
Hi-ho, hi-ho. We're off and away we go. So yes, I'm doing good. How are you? I don't know where that came from.
And now you're writing a fairy tale.
Okay, I'm ready to go. How are you?
I'm great. And
Wonderful.
I can't wait to start this fabulous episode of Mailbag. So here we go. Dylan Sumner writes, "Hi everyone at AMC. I love this show. I've watched it every day since I found it about a year ago, and I'm addicted.
Awesome.
You have to help me out. Every time my friends and I talk about our favorite movies of all time, I say The Wizard of Oz, and they give me crap. Please tell them that The Wizard of Oz is great. I've been watching it since I was 4, and now I'm a 34-year-old Australian man."
Okay, well, look, first things first, I feel it's stupid that I have to keep reminding people of this, but every once in a while, well, look, all film is subjective, okay? Like, it's all subjective. There's no such thing as a definitively great film. There's no such thing as a definitively bad film. There's just not. It's art. It's all subjective. It's all about how do you personally respond to it. That's all that matters. But are you insane? Why are you even associated with people that don't acknowledge the greatness of The Wizard of Oz?
So true.
Are they crazy? No, look, I might take issue too. I won't agree that it's the greatest film of all time. I don't think, but it is one of the greats. Name 10 other movies off the top of your head like that, just off the top of your head like that, that on the same level of Wizard of Oz has endured in the pop culture, social, and whatever fabric of our culture. Every freaking buddy knows who Dorothy is, and the Tin Man, and Toto, the Wicked Witch of the West. We all know it. Why? Because it's greatness. That movie is greatness, and greatness endures. And this is a film that has been passed on from generation to generation, parents to children, parents to children, parents to children, through the ages. It holds up. I mean, do the effects hold up? Obviously not. But every year, at least once, I'll sit down and watch Wizard of Oz. And it just captures you. It's wonder. It's amazement. It represents all the things that are great about the movies. I love Wizard of Oz. So yeah, you can tell your friends to stick it. I think it's great. It's awesome. I love Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, me too. It's such a classic. How could you hate Wizard of Oz? What kind of sick human being
What
are
I
you?
don't get is if you say, I love Wizard of Oz, and somebody gives you a hard time for it.
Even if you are a 34-year-old Australian
give me
man.
a break. That movie's awesome.
Who's your favorite Wizard of Oz character?
My favorite Wizard of Oz character is Tin Man.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I love Tin. I don't know why, but I always find myself really rooting for Tin Man every time I watch it.
Good Witch.
Yeah. Oh, the Good Witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Brian Singleton writes, "Greetings AMC Quorum. I'm a huge Highlander fan. Has there been any progress in the new reboot? I think it would be great to have The Rock as the Kurgan, Liam Neeson as Ramirez, and Chris Pine as Connor. Hopefully this franchise can be rebooted properly. Highlander Endgame had a chance but dropped the ball. Give the filthy prize. There can be only one."
I am immortal. I have in me the blood of kings. I love Highlander. There can be only one. And yet Highlander 2 came out. But Highlander, it is the one thing. Look, we all have like top 10 lists, right? And while we all will have different top 10 lists and you know, I would put these in different orders, not many of us have a film on our list where everybody just looks at you like you're crazy. The one film that I've always had on my top 10 favorite films of all time, and the one that people always look at me sideways like, what? A little bit, is the original Highlander. Okay. Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery. There's something about that movie for me, the original, that and Highlander 2 is one of the worst films ever made in history. I just pretend that movie doesn't exist. But there's something magical about it. I loved it. And I was very excited. I thought the TV series with his cousin, like Duncan MacLeod, his cousin, I thought was okay. It had potential, I promise. But it's always for me been that original Highlander movie, and the mythology of it is just so breathtakingly beautiful, and it's great. And a number of years ago, they announced that they were going to do a remake of it. And for about a year and a half, Ryan Reynolds was attached to play Christopher Lambert's character, Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod. He was going to be the new Highlander. And I was actually for it. I thought that worked. But it fell through. After a while of no movement whatsoever, Ryan Reynolds left. And that's cool. That's fine. Then there's some rumors about Tom Cruise and whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'll be honest with you. I have not heard anything else about the state of it. As far as I know, they're still planning on making it. But I have not personally. If you guys have heard of more progress, please put some links in the comments section. I'd love to read up. But I haven't heard any progress at this point.
He gave, Brian, I think his name was, gave the example of Liam Neeson and The Rock. Could you ever see them in a film together? That'd be such a strange duo.
That would be kind of funny. And actually, you know what? That's actually pretty inspired. If you've seen the original Highlander and how Sean Connery played Inigo Montoya's, it's not Inigo Montoya's. That's of course from it's Ramirez. Montoya, I'm thinking Princess Bride. But how Sean Connery played Ramirez in the Highlander, I could totally actually see Liam Neeson playing that. And The Rock as Kurgan. Rock's a little too pretty. He's a little too pretty to be the Kurgan. I don't know who I would put in as the Kurgan. I could see Dolph Lundgren as the Kurgan. Dolph Lundgren would be a pretty good Kurgan, actually. But I can't see The Rock doing it.
Yeah, that'd be a funny pair,
though. It would be a funny pair. Very funny pair.
Adam Choate writes, hello, AMC. Now, the official nominations have not been announced, so this may be a dumb question, but how come Foxcatcher is being considered for Best Original Screenplay when Whiplash is being considered for Best Adapted Screenplay? Wasn't Foxcatcher based on a true story? Thanks and keep it up.
Okay, yes. Foxcatcher's a true story. So the question is, well, if it's a true story, so it's a screenplay based on real events, why is it being considered for Best Original Screenplay? This is because of the way the rules are worded, all right? So there are two screenplay categories at the Academy Awards. There's Best Original Screenplay and Best Adapted Screenplay. Now, what defines an adapted screenplay is a screenplay that is based on previously, and here's the magic word, on previously published work. So see, while Foxcatcher is based on a true story, the screenplay was not based on an article. It was not based on a short story. It was not based on the book of Foxcatcher. It was written strictly from scratch as an original. It's not based, as according to the rules, on previously published material. Whiplash is another interesting one. It is being categorized as Best Adapted Screenplay. And it's kind of weird because the first thing that was written was an 85-page screenplay for Whiplash. Mm-hmm. But then he adapted that. He got together some people and they made a 15-minute short film of Whiplash. A 15-minute short film, which, by the way, also starred J.K. Simmons. Played the role that he plays in the full-length feature. Then they rewrote the full-length script of Whiplash again. Same guy. J.K. Simmons obviously came back to reprise his role. And this is an adapted screenplay. Why? Because technically speaking, this movie's script is based on this 15-minute short film, which also happened to be based on an original script that he wrote before that, but still, according to the rules, it is an adapted screenplay. So while we could probably sit back, obviously there's some ammunition here to nitpick and say, yeah, but this, and it's the same guy, and he originally wrote it as an original screenplay, it turned into something, yeah, I get it, but if they're going to follow the rules, that is the way the rules are laid out. So Foxcatcher is an original screenplay, Whiplash is an adapted screenplay.
How strict are these rules? Because it almost seems like they're trying to bend the rules a little bit.
No, they're pretty strict. And I think the reason they try to stay strict on them is to take the human element out of it. I mean, which is kind of funny to say because all film is subjective. The whole thing is a human element, right or wrong. But if they start wavering on the rules, then what happens is every single movie is going to try to argue to be here or there. It is a lot easier for the Academy to say, look, here are the rules, and the rules decide whether you fall on this side or fall on this side. And so that's probably the way they try to approach it.
Okay, makes sense. James McKenzie writes, hey AMC movie crew, how's it going? My question is about B versus S. I hear a lot of talk about could there be a love triangle between Wonder Woman, Lois, and Superman? I never liked the Wonder Woman and Superman thing. I could be wrong, but I think in B versus S, they will go the Batman and Wonder Woman love interest. It's been done before, and I like that better than a dumb catfight between Wonder Woman and Lois. Plus, we know Bruce Wayne always has a love interest. Thanks, keep up the good work.
Yeah, well, I don't think you need to worry about that, at least not in Batman versus Superman. Amy Adams recently came out and said in an interview, it's like, who knows where they're going to go with it later, but as far as Batman versus Superman going, which is all she knows about, she goes, there's no love triangle.
Yeah.
So obviously but there's an argument to be made for a Superman Wonder Woman love interest. And look, I'm traditional. I like Superman with Lois Lane. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, let's look at the Wonder Woman character. I talked about this on Movie Talk maybe about 6 months ago. I kind of brought this up, but Wonder Woman comes from an all-female society, right? With some disdain for my particular gender and whatever. It's certainly a superiority complex to my particular gender, right? And she is more powerful than any man in the world and all that kind of stuff. And she has immense power and all that kind of stuff. But then she comes across a man that is not just her physical equal, or maybe even, superior. Because he's Superman, who's actually more powerful than she is. But more than, and more important than that, he is a noble man. He's regal. He's almost royal in the way. I read one comic once where she described Superman as carries himself as royalty with the heart of a peasant, which is I love that. That's so poetic, right? So suddenly, here she comes from her background and where she is to the one man who is truly her equal, not just in physical power but in philosophy, right? There's a movie to be made there. There is. And then with Superman, practically a god, who comes across a woman who more than any other being on the planet might be able to understand what it is he struggles with. You know, his great power creates a great separation between him and his desire to be truly human, you know, and living with humans and be part of humanity. And we've seen the good Superman incarnations always investigate that dichotomy in Superman. And now here comes along a being from Earth that can relate with that, and that he can relate to a little bit better than anybody else on the planet. There's a movie to be made there about that. Although I am a traditionalist, I want my Superman with Lois Lane. But if they ever did explore it, like they have in the New 52, if they ever did explore that, I think there's story there to be examined. I think there's some real, I almost swore, I think there's some real romantic crap there to be investigated. I think it could actually be pretty cool, but put yourself at ease. That is definitely not the direction they're going with Batman versus Superman, and therefore I doubt it's the direction they're going to go later on.
I love how Amy Adams called it a male fantasy.
Yeah,
she's so right.
She did. For those of you who didn't read her interview, she called it, I know, catfight Wonder Woman, Lois Lane. I know that's the male fantasy, and she's so right.
She's so right.
She's so right.
I read that online there was some speculation that maybe Batman would flirt with Lois Lane to kind of get under Superman's skin. Do you think he would do that?
That would be awesome.
Right?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Smart.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I would love to see a scene of Ben Affleck once, because he is the great detective. He'll figure out who Superman is. He'll just figure it out. That Superman is Clark Kent, and he decides he wants to get under his skin. And as the ultimate man, as Bruce Wayne, start to put the moves on.
Typical guy move, too.
Another typical guy move. We're so predictable, but that would be pretty funny, actually. And then to see Clark, how he reacts to that. Because that would be pretty cool, too, because then you'd have Superman feeling so inadequate and feeling so, vulnerable because here's this guy with, that
would be great, because you could see that
great.
range of emotion.
So much cool stuff you could do with that.
Right. Diane Biggerstaff writes, "Hey guys, I always love the show. I was wondering why Timothy Spall isn't getting a lot of buzz of an Oscar nomination, even though critics seem to love Mr. Turner. Other performances in British biopics such as Cumberbatch and Redmayne are seen as guaranteed nominations. Does Timothy Spall stand any chance of being nominated?"
It is looking more and more likely that no, and it's funny because about 2 or 3 months ago, I would have said yes. I would have said, yes, he should be in there. And today I'll say, yes, he should. Timothy Spall in Mr. Turner, he won Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, for those of you who know Timothy Spall, if you watch the Harry Potter films, you know who he is. He played Wormtail in the Harry Potter films. Not our vision of what the big movie star is, but his performance in Mr. Turner is sick. It's so good. But it's like we've talked about with a lot of other actors when people bring up, do you think this guy has a chance for an Academy Award? Do you think this guy... It's all about what's the competition. And this year is stacked. Absolutely stacked in the male lead category. And really, unfortunately, Timothy Spall's name has been dropping more and more on the discussion list. And now you don't even hear his name mentioned, which I think is a crime. I think he was great, but it might be a little bit of out of sight, out of mind at hand here. But that's not to take away from any of those guys who are going to get nominated. There ain't one of them that's going to get nominated that does not deserve the nomination. That's just the type of year it is. And so it's unfortunate, but it doesn't look like he's going to get that nod.
What was interesting was that Imitation Game and Theory of Everything were rated slightly lower than Mr. Turner.
Yeah.
So, like, how do those ratings affect nominations? Apparently they don't.
Well, probably not very much, especially when you're talking about acting category. I mean, remember, those ratings were for the movie overall as opposed to the individual performer, the individual actor, and things like that. You will often see at the Academy Awards, the person who wins Best Actor is not the film that wins Best Picture. So that's all fine. But yeah, I think there's a few things at play here. He's not the prototype of the Academy Award nominee. He's a little bit of out of sight, out of mind, because it's been a while since Mr. Turner. But I still think the biggest culprit is a much less diabolical thing. It's just a packed year. Look, no one's going to argue that Cumberbatch wasn't great in Imitation Game. He was great. No one's going to argue that Michael Keaton wasn't magnificent in Birdman. Of course he was magnificent in Birdman. And all these guys who are going to end up with nominations all deserve it. The problem is we have, and this is a good problem to have if you're a film fan, we have more guys this year who deserve an Academy Award nomination for Best Acting than we have spots for guys to get an Academy Award nominee for Best Acting. And it looks like Spall's just going to be one of those. There are going to be several guys who you can make a solid argument should have got a nomination that are going to be on the outside looking in because it's just that packed of a year.
All right. Setinam Zowu writes, is there still hope for a Tintin sequel, or has it gone where movies being planned go to die?
The plans were so grand when they first started this Tintin project, which, by the way, Tintin's actually pretty good. But it was Peter Jackson, Steven Spielberg. One's going to direct one, the other will produce, then they're going to do the next film, and they'll switch spots, and they'll do a third film, and they'll switch spots again. It was this big, elaborate plan. Well, where's Tintin 2? No idea. Now, recently, by recently, I mean within the last couple of months, I can't remember exactly when it happened, Steven Spielberg was talked to, somebody was interviewed Spielberg, and they brought up Tintin 2, and he said, oh yeah, we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it. We're trying to work out schedules, so that's telling me they still don't have it on the books. Right. So who knows? I mean, who knows? I know Peter Jackson is probably just itching to get away from Middle-earth at this point. It's his baby. He loves it, but my goodness, he spent a lot of years of his life working on Middle-earth. But, you know, he might be itching to get away from animation or anything. He might just be wanting to do another... oh, gosh, what was the name of that movie Peter Jackson directed with Mark Wahlberg, The Murdered Girl? The Lovely Bones. That's right. He might be looking to do another Lovely Bones, which would be unfortunate because that movie wasn't actually all that good. But, or another King Kong, which is also unfortunate. But actually, I like King Kong. I like the King Kong. You know what they need to do with King Kong? I've said this before. Peter Jackson did every Lord of the Rings movie like over 3 hours, and it's like he forgot how to edit a movie, and like King Kong was over 3 hours. I've always said that first hour of the film of them just getting to Skull Island, I've always said, if you just have opening credits and then boom, they're on the boat approaching Skull Island, then just introduce the characters quickly, cut out that first hour of the movie altogether, much better film. Because that fight in King Kong, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here. That fight in King Kong between King Kong and the T-Rexes was awesome. That was like incredible stuff. There was some really good stuff, but by the time they finally got to the island, I was fatigued. I was tired of the movie by the time they got to the good stuff. So anyway, I think it's a 50-50 shot that Tintin 2 ever happens. I think just schedules got in the way. They planned to do this thing a long time ago, never happened. Spielberg we keep hearing about new projects Spielberg's taking on and stuff like that. So there is a chance I'm not going to call it yet, but there's a chance we may not see Tintin 2.
How does that even happen to movies? Because you hear these movies being announced and then they don't happen? Don't people sign up to work on these movies and expect a paycheck? What the hell happens to that?
Well, signing up is different, than things actually happening. You sign up to do it, but as we often explain on the show, that just because an actor is signed up by a studio doesn't mean a studio owes them anything. It just means you are now obligated to be in my movie. And when you are in my movie, I will pay you. And if not,
that's just so mind blowing.
Then I will
Life
not.
of an actor,
and
right
I'm sure some actors get into their contracts. There's like let's say I'm Warner Brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And you're Ashley Mova, the hottest actress in Hollywood right now, right? So here we go. So I decide I've got this great idea. Called She Warrior. I'm starting a new franchise called She Warrior, right?
This is great.
And I've got plans for 3 films that I want to do. I've got these scripts. I'm really happy with them. And I just know that Ashley Mova is truly the She Warrior.
I'm the perfect fit.
She's the perfect fit. She is this mild-mannered insurance broker by day.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And has a hot nightlife.
Sure do.
But when the clubs close and the crime comes out, somebody needs to fight that crime. Who do we call upon? The city calls on She Warrior. So I decide Ashley Mova's got to be She Warrior, and I come to you and I say, all right, I'm the studio head of WB. It's like, I think you're the one to do it. We're putting this piece together, but we need to get you on board. So we sign a contract, 3-film deal. And what that means is you now have to appear. When I say, okay, we're making the movie now, you got to come do it. You got to come do it, and we got to pay you. And you got to come back and do number 2, and you got to come back and do number 3. But what it also means is that if I decide after doing She Warrior Part 1, I decide, you know what? Ashley wasn't very good in it. I want to get Amy Rose Eisenbach as She Warrior.
I'll let her have
it. Then even though I have you under contract, I don't have to have you in the film. I can replace you. Even though you have a contract, I can replace you. I've just gone in a different direction. So with stuff like that, yeah, they can have these plans, but then things come up, things get disrupted. Steven Spielberg could be under contract to the studio to do this film and then realize, you know what? You didn't get back to me in time to say we're ready to go, so I'm going to go do this other movie. Bye. And then he goes does another movie and say, I'll see you in 6 months, and if you're ready in 6 months, then we'll do it there. You're still not ready? All right, I'm going to go do this other movie now. And just look, if anything in Hollywood that I've learned when you read about all the inside stuff that goes on in Hollywood, it's so much about timing and scheduling. I mean, this is such a busy town and such a busy industry that the fact that anybody can lock down anybody to get together for 4 months to shoot a movie is remarkable.
And that's why actors deserve to get paid
Yes.
as much as they do.
What's the next question, She Warrior?
David Thompson writes, hello, AMC crew, and a Happy New Year. When I hear that Spider-Man may end up at Marvel, is that because there's a clause in a contract which says that if Sony does let Spider-Man go, then it has to be returned to Marvel? Or is the Spider-Man franchise open to the highest bidder, regardless if that is or is not a studio? Maybe it could end up at WB and form the plot of the Suicide Squad film, where they are sent on a mission to assassinate Spidey.
We did cover a question that was very similar to this a few months ago. Basically what happens is, look, when we use terminology like Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man, that's the terminology we use because that conveys the point that Spidey right now is in the hands of Sony. But that's not actually accurate terminology. Think of it this way. You live, do you have an apartment in town?
Yeah.
Okay, you have an apartment in town. You don't own the apartment.
No.
You rent it. As long as you rent it and pay it every month, that apartment is yours. As long as you're there each month, pay your rent, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they can increase the rent a little bit if they want to. But
The worst.
Yeah, but it's your apartment there, but it doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to Denizen. Denizen, who's sitting back there, he's
Dennis.
Actually, who I've always suspected is a bit of a slumlord, but Denizen is the guy who actually owns the building, right? You are renting from him. For all intents and purposes, it's your apartment. Really, it belongs to him. What you cannot do is you can't have me over to watch a movie some night and have some popcorn and then go, and me look around and go, wow, Ashley, I really love your place. And you go, you can't say to me, really? You want to buy the place off me for $150,000? Like, you can find that in Hollywood for that price. For $400,000, you want to buy the place? You can't sell that apartment to me because it ain't yours to sell. It's your apartment. You can do with it what you want. You're living it, but at the end of the day, it belongs to Slumlord Dennis. And it's his place. You can't sell it. It belongs to him. So it's the kind of same situation with Spider-Man. Sony's got him. And as long as they keep making Spider-Man movies and following the terms of the agreement, he's theirs. But he is not theirs to sell to somebody else. They still, ultimately, he is owned by Marvel, but Sony has the rights to him right now. And whenever they part with him, either because they decide to sell him or because they miss the dates and they can't get a new Spider-Man film put in production in time to meet the requirements of the contract, and whatever reason, once Spider-Man, whenever this happens, and I don't think it'll be for a while, might, but I don't think it will. Whenever Spider-Man no longer belongs to Sony, he goes no place but to Marvel, one way or the other.
Okay, makes sense. I hate that idea, by the way, about assassinating Spidey.
I thought you were going to say the idea of me coming over with popcorn to watch a movie. Okay, so you say thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. You're not in my She Warrior movie anymore.
But don't you think that would be too many people in a movie with the Suicide Squad and Spidey? Like, that's like 200 things going on at once.
But that's where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is right now, right? It's. I mean, we got the Avengers: Age of Ultron coming out. It would be. I just think it gets too complicated.
Let's meet Suicide Squad first.
I like Spider-Man being in his own universe.
Yeah,
I just like it.
All right. Robert writes, longtime watcher, love the show. So I love Jensen Ackles, who plays Dean Winchester in Supernatural. My question is, as good of an actor he is and how great of success he has had with the show, why he hasn't had a starring role in an action/thriller/drama movie? Is he getting passed over, or are we just not ready for him to have the leading role in a blockbuster?
First of all, Supernatural is my favorite show on television.
Oh, okay.
It has been for a couple of years. I love Supernatural.
I would have said Arrow is your favorite show.
I love Arrow. Arrow's right up there. And it's funny because the guys from Supernatural and Stephen Amell from Arrow, they're actually like best friends.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's funny because I was talking to Stephen Amell about that, and he's like, I don't even watch Supernatural that much. But he's like, you just look at his personal things, like, and when he was hanging out with us, like his phone is like him and pictures of the guys with Supernatural. They're best friends, right? So Arrow's right up there, but actually Supernatural's my favorite show. And it has been for a long time. I love that show, even when they've had bad seasons. For some reason, I just love that show, and I love Jensen Ackles. I remember when the talks first started going on about who should play Captain America. This is long before Chris Evans came on board. Jensen Ackles was one of the names that was put out there, and I could have seen it. I could have seen it. I didn't think he was necessary. He wasn't going to be necessarily my number one pick, but if they did cast Jensen Ackles to be Captain America, I would have been all for it. It comes down to, again, I'm not going to go into great detail about this because I have to every once in a while. It's the TV star curse. Once you are a TV star and you are just known as a TV star, it is next. Look, if you want to talk percentages-wise, the percentages say it is next to impossible for them to cross over and become a big TV star. How many Game of Thrones people are big mega movie stars now? None. The answer to that question is none. For heaven's sakes, Bryan Cranston, the dude who is arguably the best television dramatic actor for years, he's got one movie coming out, Trumbull, I think it's called, which sounds fascinating. I think it was one of the Blacklist scripts, actually. Sounds totally fascinating. Maybe could be a big break for him to break into it. But he's arguably one of the best actors out there. He's not being handed roles. Look at, like, it just hit Netflix, so it's pretty relevant right now, Friends. Who among them have a healthy, active movie career?
Like Jennifer Aniston.
One. And name hit films she's been in.
Yeah.
None. And hit films that she is the primary person playing it. Like even in Office Space, people say, well, Jennifer Aniston in Office Space. Her character was an afterthought in Office Space. Office Space wasn't great because of Jennifer Aniston. But Jennifer Aniston is one of the names you can bring up. I've always contended, in 30 years, you maybe have 25 names of people who first broke in by being big TV stars that were then able to successfully transition that into a big movie career. You got your George Clooney's, you got your Michael J. Fox's. I can't really count Will Smith because he was already a big celebrity before he was even on TV because of his music career. But you'll get some. There's a number. Mike Myers is a number one. You'll get 25 of those guys, but 25 out of 30 years makes it daunting. Makes it difficult. Let's just go back to Breaking Bad. Aaron Paul. He had Need for Speed, which was a better movie than I really thought it was going to be, but was not a big hit. You don't see, but he's been in some smaller roles, but he's not getting the big lead films and big success too, despite the fact it's one of the most successful shows ever. Look, people just start to see you as that one character. People ask, we saw Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter in 8 films. Is he now stereotyped as Harry Potter? He might be fighting that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We saw Aaron Paul as, what was his character's name in Breaking Bad again? It's right on the tip. Jesse. We saw Aaron Paul play Jesse in 50 or 60 episodes. 50 or 60 times we sat down and watched him play that one character. So it's difficult, it's hard. And I don't know, ultimately, I don't really know why it is. I just know that it is. So I do not think we're going to see, as much as I would love to see Jensen Ackles become a big movie star, I don't think it's going to happen.
Don't you think the other way around is just as strange? Like Matthew McConaughey in True Detective. I've never watched the show, so I can't say if I'm a fan of it or not. But just the idea of him being in a show is so strange to me.
It is strange, but it's a much higher success rate. People who are big movie stars who transition into television seem to have a much easier time of it, is exaggerating, but they seem to have an easier time of it. And now it's a big event when, Katherine Heigl just made and her show's doing really well. I've not heard great things about her show, but the show is doing well. We've seen big movie stars come over and do television, and that works great, but the other way seems to be really, really hard.
Well, sucks for them. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining us. And just a reminder, lots of great movies being shown in AMC theaters today. So go ahead and check out www.amctheaters.com for all of your theaters, showtimes, and ticket information. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, check out the description box below and click that subscribe button. Thanks to the guys in the room, Jonathan and Dennis. And thanks to you, John. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on the interwebs, on Facebook and on Twitter at the same place, just at John Campia. Follow me there.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley Mova. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys, and we will catch you on the next episode. Bye.